Hey everybody, it's great to be here with y'all. Flew in from DC just a couple hours ago, where we're trying to get some things done alongside the president. I think some of you might know me. I'm Chip Roy, and I represent the 21st Congressional District, which takes you from Austin to San Antonio and out to the Hill Country. Family came to Texas in the 1850s. My great-great-grandfather was a Texas Ranger. My grandfather was the chief of police of Sweetwater, Texas.
How long did she say?
I served as an assistant United States attorney where I prosecuted drug runners and other criminals, and I served as the first assistant attorney general under Ken Paxton.
2-minute close.
And as a Cruz's chief of staff, and then now I'm 4 terms in Congress. And running for attorney general because, well, I think I can continue to do a lot of things in Congress and be a voice alongside the president for change. If we lose Texas, we lose the country. And this state is under attack. And it's under attack by Islamists, by Marxists, by radical DAs, and by an organized group of leftists that need to be taken out. And we need people with the background and the ability and, frankly, the courage to stand up and do it. And so I want to come home to Texas and defend this state for Texas and for our country. God bless.
Thank you so much.
I'll pass it down.
Well, howdy, Wise County. My name is Aaron Reitz, and I'm running for Attorney General because I believe that we are in a battle for the soul of our state and our nation. And I know from personal experience that the primary arena in which we fight the dark forces of the left is the justice system. President Trump understood this when he brought me as one of the very first nominees to the senior ranks of the Justice Department. And when he did that, he said, Aaron Reitz is a true MAGA attorney and a warrior for the Constitution. Why? Because I've spent my entire career leading legal troops into legal combat to deliver wins for our conservative Republican values. That's what I do. It's also why Attorney General Ken Paxton endorsed me to succeed him, saying that I was the only one in the race that he could trust to turn the keys of this mission-essential office down to. The kinds of fights that are in the justice system at every level are vast and extreme, and we need a fighter who's ready, and that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Howdy, Wise County. I am grateful to Wise County conservatives for all you do to elect true conservatives like Andy Hopper. You have a fantastic state representative who spilled coffee on me earlier, by the way. That's what that is. Andy spilled his coffee. But look, this is a calling. This is not a job for me. And I actually ran against a liberal incumbent that was not living up to his conservative promises, got elected to the Texas House, was chairman of the Texas House Freedom Caucus. When I ran for Senate, President Trump said my conservative record was second to none. And like our president, I don't take anything from the job. No salary, no pension, no health care. Well, look, this is also a show me, don't tell me business. And I can show you the results. I fought the woke left's gender ideology and won. Authored the law to save women's sports and kick men out of women's private spaces. I defeated, in the law today, actually. Women's Privacy Act went into effective on this day today. Huge victory. I defeated the atheists and won. Authored and passed the law to put prayer back in our public schools and the 10 Commandments back on the wall of every single classroom. And I'm fighting to put our country first, stopping China from buying our land, designating cartels as terrorist organizations, and now taking on the next, newest, and most growing threat, which is Islamification and Sharia law in Texas.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to ask one of the questions we've already asked, and we'll start with you, sir. What is the fundamental role of government?
How long do we have on this one?
Oh, you do. Thank you for asking. That was 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, the fundamental role of government is to preserve and protect liberty. And it is embedded in our Constitution. It is critical. And if we do not have attorneys general who are willing to defend our states in front of the Supreme Court and to protect our liberties, then we will lose our precious liberties. And importantly, that means fighting the Islamification of Texas, the criminals that are being put on our streets by radical leftists and Marxists, and wide open borders. And never again should we left to a Biden-Mayorkas type administration, leaving our borders wide open and leaving Texas defenseless. We should declare invasions, we should stand up, and we should fight to defend the state.
Thank you very much.
The role of government is to ensure that your God-given, inalienable rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness are secured. And what distinguishes me in the fulfillment of that mission from the two gentlemen on my left and my right is the roles that we have played in advancing life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The legislature promulgates the laws to try to make corrections along the way. But it's the lawyers, the Attorney General, who then has to go vindicate those rights in court. That's what makes me stand out. It's my legal record and delivering wins in court that sets me apart in defending your life, your liberty, and the pursuit of your happiness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like our Chief Justice said, we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. The government doesn't grant us any rights. Those are all God granted. And you know what? We are a Christian nation. We need to be bold in saying that. And we need to be bold in fighting for those biblical values. And frankly, anyone that's in the way of that needs to be held accountable. Right? Our laws, our Constitution, those are not suggestions. This is not cafeteria style. So if you have liberal George Soros DAs that are not keeping our families safe, that are not enforcing our penal code, they need to be removed from office because your God-granted freedoms are at risk if they're not prosecuting criminals.
Speaking of faith, how does your faith guide your leadership and decision making? Senator, if you please start that one.
That guides everything. That's the thing that I'm the most proud of, because for it is by grace we have been saved through faith. That matters above all other things. And I'll tell you, I don't have the strength inside me alone to sustain me in this battle for the future of our state and nation. Only my faith can do that. But we have to be bold in that faith. And we have to defeat the lie that the left has told about separation of church and state. That is a lie. And it's designed to stop us from being bold. And we have to call them out to end that and defeat the atheists, frankly, who push that.
Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you first and foremost, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. And His law, more than any man law, more than the highest law of this land, the Constitution, it's God's law that informs everything that I do personally and professionally. That's the bottom line. Second, I believe that our constitutional republic can only persist and thrive when that understanding of the supremacy of God's law inheres in everything that we do. And that religious liberty is something that is under constant attack in every court at every level. And you need an attorney general who has litigated and won on religious liberty issues at every level. And that's exactly what I've done, and that's exactly what I'm going to continue to do as your next AG.
Thank you.
Well, 13 years ago, I had just gotten through beating stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. And my wife is a saint who carried me through that through prayer and our deep faith in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And I can tell you that not a day has gone by since God gave me another round that I haven't said that I'm going to leave everything on the field to ensure that my kids and my grandkids get to live in the freest and the greatest country in the world. And the only reason to live free is to be able to share the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Thank you. Thank you all. We're going to start with you on this question if you don't mind. Texans for Lawsuit Reform, TLR. Very powerful organization that sought to shield corporations from lawsuits and actively pushed to impeach Attorney General Paxton. As AG, what can you tell us to assure us that TLR won't be stepping your administration and you'll continue suing companies even if the TLR pressures you not to? And you have 90 seconds.
Well, look, I want to be very clear. I stood by Attorney General Ken Paxton when the coup happened against him in October of 2020, and I stood by him when the sham impeachment happened. I'll tell you that the two men I'm sitting next to were the prime instigators of not only the coup against Ken Paxton, but also the sham impeachment. Mr. Middleton gave hundreds of thousands of dollars over his career to TLR. TLR, in turn, has given him tens of thousands of dollars. Now, I don't know about the financial history with Congressman Roy and TLR, but what I can tell you is that Congressman Roy was the very first elected official in America to call for Ken Paxton's removal from office in October of 2020. He then spent the entire spring, summer, and fall of 2023 calling for Ken Paxton to be removed from office. Mr. Middleton, on the other hand, has contributed nearly $1 million of his own inherited money against funding Paxton's primary challengers in 2022, bankrolling the House impeachment managers, bankrolling the single largest donor to the House Republicans who voted to impeach him, and was widely reported in right-wing, left-wing, and moderate media as one of the lead whips in the Senate urging for a conviction. And if you talk to Ken Paxton himself, he'll tell you the same. Meanwhile, Chip was on the news saying the same thing: get rid of him. If you want somebody who stands with Paxton, who's been endorsed by him, and who is loyal and not a traitor, I'm your only choice in this option.
Well, thank you. There's a whole lot he said that's just frankly not true.
No.
I can't be bought or rented.
Because your dad's oil company.
That is a lie also. Guess who the largest donor, like President Trump, when he got elected in 2016, to my campaign is? It's myself. TLR has not endorsed me. That has not happened. They gave to every Republican state senator, all of them, 100%, including Bob Hall, who's a great conservative champion. So no, they have not endorsed me. And no, I cannot be bought or rented. And yes, I did vote to acquit on every single last impeachment charge that was brought against Ken Paxton. And not only that, I supported him in the runoff with mailer slates. So everything he said right here is not true.
That's totally fine.
It is a lie.
Okay.
It is a lie. So we need to stand up for the truth here. But look, I'll tell you in Austin, I do challenge the swamp. The Congress Avenue swamp, they don't want me there. That's why I take on the toughest fights, like the ban on taxpayer-funded lobbying, where he works. He works for taxpayer-funded lobbyists in Austin.
Not true.
That has about 15 government clients.
I'm a lawyer.
Keep it just for now, please. Thank you.
I'm making the point that the lobby swamp does not want me there. I don't work for them. I don't take anything from them. And that's why I take on the toughest of fights, and that's why they're after me. Because it is the USA of Texas. And that is why I take that on from day one, because your tax dollars are being weaponized against you, whether that's TASB or TML or TAG.
Thank you very much.
Well, the question was generally about whether you're going to be willing to stand up to corporations and whether you're going to be able to stand up to TLR. And throughout my career, one of the things I'm most proud of are the number of times that I'm stopped across the country, or stopped on the airplane flying back and forth from DC, or stopped in Texas, or stopped when I'm driving around and talking to folks at a gas station, and people say, thank you for doing what you think is right. And I will do that. I will always stand up and do what I think is right. I will always stand up and defend the Constitution and the law. And that is the job of the Attorney General of Texas. I was Ken's first Assistant Attorney General for a reason. We're ideologically simpatico. We don't always agree on how you do things. And I've owned that, and I stand by that. I think that there is a way to do things. And one of those things is to stand up to corporations. One of those things is to stand up and fight insurance companies in Washington when they're lobbying you. Or like I did just this week, stand up to a bloated NCAA trying to cram through a bill and make Congress dance for more money for coaches and other things. You got to be able to stand up to the swamp and deliver. You got to be able to go up and do what we did when we delivered on the big, beautiful pill, and we had to tell the big corporate interests to stand down. You got to do what I did in May, which was vote against the big, beautiful bill in the Budget Committee. Why? So that we could deliver a week later the half cuts that we got to the Green New Scam, and deliver Medicaid reform, getting rid of fraud, putting work requirements in the bill, and getting $1.6 trillion of savings. You got to be willing to stand up when it counts, no matter what's happening. And that's what you need in somebody as the Office of Attorney General.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to have you answer this question first, if you don't mind. In the wake of Navy veteran Colton, and I hope I say this right, Crottingers, is that right? We're going to go back. Recent arrest in Granbury for posting a Facebook meme impersonating a local political advocate to endorse a school board candidate. A case that was ignited widespread concerns over online free speech. How would you, as AG, ensure robust First Amendment protections for political expression in memes and other forms of digital posts while balancing public safety and impersonation? How do you say that? Impersonation?
Impersonation, yeah.
Impersonation, oh my God, y'all, I'm telling you, it's long. Impersonation laws, how would you go against that and still protect that First Amendment?
Well, this is actually a critically important question because what we're facing right now, and I described earlier, the organized left, the Marxist left, the Islamist left, they are organized to dismantle our way of life. So when we talk about what the stakes are, our way of life is what's at stake. These issues are a product of people that are unwilling in the legislature or unwilling in the AG's office to stand up and do the right thing. And let's talk about some of those things that I've been dealing with in Washington. For example, when you talk about hate speech laws or thought speech laws or how you deal with things online, with what is being described here, you got to be willing to say something about it. So for example, when we had a bill about Israel that we were dealing with respect to the funding issues 2 years ago, there was a piece that we were dealing with about hate speech on college campuses. And someone had to be willing to say, wait a minute, we're not just going to do this because we're being told this is something we have to move through and stand up and fight it. So some of us took and fought that issue so that we could fight it in the House and got criticized for it. There are other issues like that that you have to be willing to demonstrate and carry forward, standing up for people's free speech rights and our ability to say what we think is right, regardless of what the powers that be are going to say.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so just to set the stage, so Colton is an activist who made a meme lightly poking fun at one of a political rival, okay? The political rival then weaponized a good old boys network to then arrest Colton, alleging violations of what's commonly known as the anti-meme law, which was widely panned as an infringement upon First Amendment free speech rights. And I want to go on record saying, I love memes. I love hilarious memes. I like making memes. When I'm Attorney General, I'll make way better memes than either of these guys. I promise you that. It's one of my main campaign promises, okay? We're going to have a lot of fun with our memes. So Colton then got arrested by this good old boys network that was punitively going against him. It is very obvious that this particular provision in the Texas Criminal Code has been used to bully and harass political dissidents. That's what it's being used for. It's a poorly crafted law. I think that the legislature should reform it. And I think that Colton is going to ultimately be vindicated. Now, so clear-eyed am I about this particular issue, and so much help have I offered personally Colton in this regard in defending his First Amendment rights, that Colton himself has endorsed me to be the next Attorney General because he knows that I'm the only one with a robust record litigating, investigating, suing, defending, and appealing, and winning in court at every level to defend Texans' First Amendment rights. That's what I do now. That's what I'm going to do as the next AG.
You know, I think this goes to a bigger issue, right? Where the left believes in free speech until they don't like what you're saying, right? And you are the men and women in this state, in this room, that are fighting for conservative values. You know, you went up against a lot. You got Andy Hopper elected. You're out there advocating for what we believe in, the toughest fights. And this is a clear and present danger, and we're talking about that too. Because that could happen to you. That could happen to you. And they're using the power of government to target someone. That's conservative, by the way. Colton's very conservative, because they don't like what he's saying. That is wrong. That is why this fight is so important. And the AG's office and the power of that office needs to be there to defend those who can't defend themselves, right? This is something that shouldn't be happening in Texas. That's why I led the charge in the Freedom Caucus on the bill that bans social media censorship, right? That was Briscoe-Kane. Unfortunately, we had some activist judges that disagreed with us on that, sadly. But we've all been censored. Everybody in this room, raise your hand if you think you've had a post on social media that's been censored. Nearly everybody is raising their hand, right? Because it's happened to us. It's wrong. And as Attorney General, I will use every resource and tool in that office to defend your First Amendment rights to free speech.
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to go ahead, Aaron, have you do this one. And those that raised your hand, you're in church. I'll be praying about those posts. Senate Bill 12. It passed restoring the Attorney General's authority to prosecute election fraud cases. Even when local prosecutors refuse to act, supporters say it's essential for election integrity. Critics warn of potential political abuse. As AG, expound on how you will use this authority to prosecute a case when the local DA chooses not to. And you have 90 seconds.
Well, I'm the only one on this stage that has actually used these powers to advance and defend election integrity in all of the major election fraud-prone jurisdictions throughout the state. Let's set the stage again, okay? When I was Paxton's deputy, from 2020 to 2023, I oversaw all of our election integrity matters. In 2020, I had all those powers at my disposal. In 2021, the Court of Criminal Appeals tried to strip them from the AG's office, so that in the 2022 cycle, I had not one but two hands tied behind my back, and it proved very difficult to do what we needed to do. Now, legislators like Senator Middleton did absolutely nothing to restore those powers in 2023, and only waited until Paxton said he wasn't running for re-election to get up off their butts and do anything about it so that he could attempt to have the powers and deny them of Ken Paxton. So what are we going to do? You're going to have, if you elect me as the Attorney General of Texas, you are going to be entrusting somebody with absolutely able and capable hands, someone who has advanced election integrity in some of the most rotten election fraud-prone jurisdictions in this state. And not only here locally. With these powers, I'm going to steamroll over these Soros-funded DAs who don't want to pick up over them.
Thank you.
You elect me as the Attorney General, you don't have to worry about these loser leftists not prosecuting election crime, because I'm just going to move them to the side and take charge of the situation to ensure that the ballot box is something that you can trust.
Thank you. Reitz, would you like to?
Well, so you got to ask, why is the power for the AG to prosecute so important? And here's the question behind that. Do we really think George Soros DAs are going to prosecute voter fraud? Does anyone know? Nobody believes that. That's why you've got to have that backup power. And we actually did pass the bill in the Texas Senate in 2023. It did not pass the House. Look, this has always been a top priority of mine. I asked Governor Abbott to add it to the special session call during the special sessions this year. He did. Very grateful for that. We got it passed in the Senate, got it passed in the House. Now it is law. But you got to take step two. I want a standalone task force in the AG's office that has investigation and law enforcement powers in order to investigate those that are violating our election laws and then prosecute them to hold them accountable. Because one illegal vote cancels out your legal vote. We saw this in 2020. 2020 was a stolen election. Never again. Never in Texas, never on my watch. Anyone that is out there violating our election laws will be prosecuted.
Thank you.
Election integrity is one of the core issues the Office of the Attorney General must focus upon. And it is important that the power vested in the Attorney General be able to be utilized to prevent not just Soros-funded DAs, but the vast network of DAs that are pushing a leftist agenda and allowing this to occur. As a member of Congress, I drafted, along with Cleta Mitchell, one of the best election lawyers in the country, who's endorsed me as one of President Trump's lawyers, We drafted the SAVE Act, which we passed through the House of Representatives. The Schumer Democrat Senate has been blocking it. We've passed it twice, but it is the vehicle. When you see it out there, it is the vehicle to promote election integrity at the federal level to ensure that only American citizens vote in American elections. Importantly, I'm the only member of Congress that went and testified in front of the legislature after 2020, after we saw all of the fraud and abuse that we knew that had occurred. But you've got to have someone who has the experience and the background in the law to be able to go address it. But I want to address one other thing about, who's been in a courtroom and who's been a lawyer. Some of us have actually stood before a judge and prosecuted criminals as an assistant United States attorney. Some of us, and only one of us on the stage, has been the first assistant attorney general that has actually run the attorney general's office under the attorney general, and that has signed the opinions and the filings that have been in court on every single one of them. Only one of us, like I said, has stood before a judge and prosecuted criminals and put them behind bars. Only one of us up here. And I think when we talk about who's been a lawyer and who has the experience, go look at the track record of someone who's actually been there.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I love that you saved the big one for last, gambling.
Who's that?
Recently, Texas Sands donated over, we're going to go ahead and start with you if you don't mind. Texas Sands donated over $1 million to the senator's campaign, making it clear to voters that if elected, the candidate would owe a huge favor for the gambling industry and would advocate for bringing casino gambling into Texas. Have you received money from this industry thus far? And would you commit tonight to refusing all campaign contributions, direct or in kind, from casino operators, their PACs, lobbyists, executives, both as a candidate and if elected, while you serve as Attorney General? Please elaborate on your personal stance on bringing casino gambling to Texas. It's not a full ride.
I oppose gambling in Texas. I oppose it whether it's casino gambling. I oppose it whether it's sports gambling. I don't think we want to have that. I think one of the most dangerous things we have for our children, particularly our young men, is the iPhones that are sitting in their pockets. I sometimes quip that I'd sooner give my kids a carton of cigarettes and a case of beer than have the iPhone that's sitting in their pocket. And I say that as a Southern Baptist. And my pastor sometimes gives me trouble for it. And it's tongue in cheek, but I'm actually serious about the danger. We are putting that gambling device right in the pockets of our kids, and it's dangerous, and we've got to stop that. But no, I'm not taking any money from gambling interests, don't intend to, don't have any interest in advancing gambling in the state. And by the way, there's a lot of powerful interests in Austin, in the lobby, that want to and that are advancing it. And we've got to stand athwart that, and we've got to be willing to stand up and say that we don't want that in Texas. Go through any place in America where you see that. I don't want that in Texas. I'm just being blunt. And, frankly, we got to be bigger than that, and we've got to address the iPhone for a reason. You got to stand up against the corporate interests and the corporatization of our great state. Corporate interests in boardrooms in New York shouldn't be deciding what our state is doing and not doing. They shouldn't own our lands. They shouldn't own our cattle. They shouldn't own our meat packing facilities. They shouldn't own our insurance businesses so that you can't afford health care. They shouldn't own our hospitals, and they sure as hell shouldn't be putting gambling casinos throughout the state of Texas.
Thank you.
I'm totally against the expansion of casinos and related sorts of gambling in Texas. And fortunately, the Texas Constitution and related statutes that have been promulgated with those provisions in the Constitution are very crystal clear. It's virtually not going to happen. This is why Sands and all the gambling interests are pouring money into the legislators. And I'm not accusing anybody on this stage of taking money from them. I don't actually know. But my point is the reason why they lobby the legislators so hard is because they know that the legislature will either have to introduce and get a constitutional amendment, or they're going to have to modify some of the related statutes. Until then, the Attorney General's job is to interpret squarely the letter of the law and enforce it as it's written. And as it's written, gambling, and casinos in particular, are prohibited in Texas. I think that prohibition is a good thing, and I will not, as Attorney General, take additional steps to provide a legal ecosystem or to grease the skids or to prep the field to to make that process easier. I will stand with the Texas Constitution that prohibits expanded gambling and casinos. Because of that firm stance, no, I have not taken any money, I have not pursued any money, I have not received any money, I don't intend to take any of this sort of money. I stand with Texas state law and the Texas Constitution. Gambling is no good, and for every dollar, I'll close with this thought in 10 seconds, for every dollar that the casino lobby wants to tell you Texas is going to make off of expanding access to these sorts of things is $50 to $100 of other negative and adverse costs that come onto our state. So don't be fooled by somebody saying, we're going to get rich off of gambling. No, we're not. We're going to get financially and spiritually impoverished with the expansion of gambling in this state.
Well, that's an easy question. I'm against it. I'm against gambling, and I've already been in this fight. You know, when I was Freedom Caucus chairman, one of the things we led on was trying to shut down the Racing Commission. Do y'all remember what they did? They put slot machines, right? They were trying to put slot machines at horse tracks to save them because it was a failing industry, it was a failing business. They illegally expanded gambling is what they were doing. We've seen this again with the lottery, right? Did y'all see Senator Hall's posts on that? Where the lottery had these apps, right, that they put on your phone, even scratch-off tickets, virtual scratch-off tickets, where they were unlawfully expanding gambling in the state of Texas. We attacked that. I helped lead the charge to stop that and shut that down because they had the door open on that. These apps on the phone, children were using it. We learned that they really didn't have meaningful age verification. I know that'll shock you, right? The ethics bar was pretty low on that. We sat on the dice one day and we're like, let's try to sign up for an account, and you just made up your age and you're approved. The kids were playing this. They were targeting children. Look, these interests mean us harm in Texas, and that is why I have led the fight, whether that's the Racing Commission, whether that's the Texas Lottery, which we finally shut down the Lottery Commission for the crimes that I believe they committed, and they did commit crimes. And there needs to be accountability there as well. And no, I've not taken any money from them. I'm not going to either.
Thank you very much. Wow, this is good. Thank you guys for taking the time and for fighting a good fight and for standing up when a lot of people won't. I'm going to give each one of you 2 minutes, if you will, please. You can stand, you have the stage, do as you will. Whoever has the, yeah, go ahead. Just
I have the mic. Okay.
Yeah.
2 minutes, you said?
Yes, please.
Okay, 2 minutes.
And the ladies at the front will give you your little call there. So thank you.
You know, the very first time I ever swore an oath to the United States Constitution was as a brand new second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps. I was 22 years old. My hairstyle was fast approaching what it currently looks like. And I raised my right hand and I said, I, Aaron Reitz, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, back then, as a child of the War on Terror, I primarily thought about the foreign enemies to the Constitution. Iraq, Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda, Saddam, Taliban, etc. I ended up deploying to Afghanistan as a Marine officer. And to be sure, we still have to think about those foreign adversaries. But in the intervening nearly 20 years from that moment till the next time I swore that oath, in the West Wing, with my wife and 4 children on my left, and United States Attorney General Pam Bondi on my right, I raised my hand and I said the exact same oath. And in that moment, I wasn't thinking necessarily about the foreign enemies of the Constitution. I was thinking about the domestic enemies of our Constitution. And I'm here to tell you from personal lived experience that the primary threats that we are facing, the enemies of our Constitution, of our Republican values, of our Christian values, of our families and our communities, of our way of life, are the domestic enemies right in our midst. President Trump trusted me to lead legal teams into legal combat to fight those domestic and foreign enemies of the Constitution. That's why he called me a true MAGA attorney and a warrior for the Constitution. Senator Cruz trusted me to do it as his chief. Ken Paxton trusted me to do it as his deputy. It's why he endorsed me. Chief Justice Jimmy Blacklock, who I served as his very first law clerk, trusted me to do it. And now my ask to you as a candidate for Attorney General of Texas is to trust me to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, as your Attorney General. Thank you and God bless.
There's a reason why I'm the only candidate in this race for Attorney General that's been protested at the Texas Capitol. They called me the bathroom bigot. They had big ugly green signs on my face. And they said, these are men and women's dresses, that I was violating their rights. Well, we're not bending to your delusions, is my response. And they threatened me. They threatened my family's life. And we defeated them. Today, the Women's Privacy Act is now law on this day in Texas. And for 7 years, I've been writing these laws, drafting them, defending them against attacks by Democrat lawyers in the House. In the Senate, defending them against attacks by Democrat lawyers in the Senate, getting them over the finish line into law. Who better to enforce these than someone who's on the ground floor, writing them and already defending them against the left's attacks? And look, also the AG's office is a 4,000 person agency, 4,000 employees. It's nearly 750 lawyers at full staff. I'm an oil and gas attorney, civil attorney, just like Ken Paxton was before he ran for Attorney General. He was in the Texas Senate before he got elected. And this is about leadership, right? You're not just a chief protector and defender. You're setting the conservative agenda for this entire state. And I think you have to have someone that has the experience signing the front of a paycheck and knowing where the buck stops to set that agenda. And because of my proven leadership, I've earned the endorsement of the conservative groups you have to win a statewide race, like Texas Values, Texas Homeschool Coalition, Texas Eagle Forum, Moms for America, Texas Family Project, True Texas Project, Riley Gaines, a majority of our state Republican Executive Committee members, and also over 51 Trump-endorsed legislators. And look, I'm never retreating from D.C. The fight is here in Texas. That's what our 10th Amendment is about. And the reason why it's so important is we don't have another Texas to move to. This is it. God bless you. God bless Wise County.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. Thank you for your time. I'm deeply honored that you guys would come out to listen to us and that you're so committed to this deeply important exercise. Back in July, we had just finished the big, beautiful bill on July 3rd. And President Trump asked some of us to stay there and be there for the bill signing, which would have been on the 4th. And I think many of you might know I represent Kerrville. And I told the president that I'd be there, but then I woke up on the 4th and things changed. And so I went to Kerrville and thank you, by the way, for all your prayers and support. The people of Kerrville deeply appreciate it from all the people across Texas. But we had a week there where we were working through that difficulty, and the nation and the community responded as faithful Christians do. The president came, as you know, that Friday, and we had a roundtable discussion. We were talking about it, and the president said, well, there's Chip. He's your congressman, and we spent a lot of time together last week on the big, beautiful bill. And then he paused and he goes, he's not easy, but he's good. And I appreciated that from the president, because that pretty much embodies my experience in my public service. Whether it was when I was a counsel in the Judiciary Committee, stopping Harriet Myers to ensure that we got Sam Alito, which took members of that committee to stand up and do. Whether it was battling cancer, as I described before, whether it was serving as Senator Cruz's chief of staff, and I'm proud to have his endorsement, whether it was serving as his first chief of staff when we were filibustering to stop the implementation of Obamacare, which we knew would be so bad, whether it was serving as the first assistant attorney general and arguing in defense of life in the Supreme Court and arguing in defense of In God We Trust on our police cars, whether it's been in Congress standing up to get the big, beautiful bill passed, whether it's been standing up to deliver on all of the issues that I said I would do, whether it was sitting on the floor of the House saying we need to change the House and this institution, when all of the folks were texting me saying, don't do this, you're going to turn it over to Hakeem Jeffries. And guess what? We changed the institution and we set it up so we could deliver for President Trump. You need someone that's willing to stand up and take the arrows and they'll do it under their name. And I'm proud to do it, and I'm looking for your support for Attorney General. God bless you.